Доброго дня, шановні колеги. 17:00, 29 квітня 2024 року. У нас сьогодні відбувається лекція в рамках науково-педагогічних стажувань, які тривають на базі Куявського університету у місті Влоцлавеку. Я представляю на сьогоднішньому заході Центр українсько-європейського співробітництва, є його директором. Центр українсько-європейського співробітництва тривалий час співпрацює з Куявським університетом уже 6 років. Це позитивна, злагоджена співпраця, яка тривала до війни і досить посилилась під час війни. І я, щоб не забирати багато часу, з задоволенням передаю слово нашому сьогоднішньому спікеру, відомому в Польщі експерту в галузі освіти та електронного навчання для дорослих, Джоанні Скибі. Хочу підкреслити, що Джоанна почала займатися дистанційною освітою, дистанційними питаннями навчання ще за багато років до карантину, коли ми вже до цього звикли, починаючи з 2020 року. Тема лекції – академічна культура та безпека. Джоанна, please speak.
Good afternoon. Today's topic related to the internships is about the academic culture and academic safety. I would like to start with the second part of this notion of the subject. Namely, I would like to focus on academic safety because sometimes we feel it is, I guess, more intriguing, it's more demanding, and I also feel the aspects which I would like to mention are very global and are related to every university, wherever we work, wherever we cooperate with. So academic safety is related, as we all know, to many, many fields. It's related to publications. So the question arises how to create safe publications. We have anti-plagiarism programs. So publications can be traced within the system using special engines for plagiarism, or special tools. So publications as such, of course, we know they should not, and they really, obviously, technically cannot be copied from other scholars. So we also may use any other technique which helps us trace the sources, but the safety of publications is mostly related to the authenticity of the rights of the writer, of the author. We also talk about the sphere of degrees, so the safety of degrees. In Poland, we have a system, an electronic system, which is very precise, and it is the system called Polon, P-O-L-O-N, and all of the scholars, those who are granted the PhD and above, are listed in the system. So, and all the career details are given there as well. So nobody can, let's say, honestly pretend they have a PhD if they are not listed there. And of course, you cannot just write it and ask somebody at a university, please write me to a Poland. No, it's not possible because you need a degree which is listed at your original institution where you graduate from. So this is like a chain reaction. So this also shows that the safety of degrees is guaranteed. I also think we need to talk about the safety of the internet, especially after the pandemic. During the pandemic times, we have learned our lesson very well on how to use the resources, and there was the only way of communication, and was the only way for teaching and university life. So the internet resources where the only and internet connections like Zoom, like Teams, or many other options, but I think these two were predominant. So the internet connections had to be reliable, stable, and very often this means that they are more expensive than others if they are very reliable. So they create extra costs for administrative running of the university. But yes, the internet safety is very important. You know, of those situations when the internet may create special tricks on people and may be the source of frustration. Or, for example, even with Zoom or Teams, if you don't have the proper license, you are allowed to use only very limited time. Like, I guess in Zoom, the free access is like only for 20 or 25 minutes. And if you want to use this source of communication, you have to pay extra fees. But the safety, I wouldn't say that it's always guaranteed that you are safe on the internet. But yes, if you provide good resources and if you use the proper provider of your services, then you may be on the safe side. Another aspect of safety in academic life and university life is the safety of research. I guess we are facing interesting times, but also very difficult and rough times. I mean, the use of applications like the ChatGPT, which in Poland now begins to become a problem. So the research may not be so much authentic as it used to be. Of course, we need to quote resources in the research. And we also have this peer control when our colleagues at university departments also have access to information on, or we work on common research papers. But the safety of research is a bit limited. In Poland now there is quite a big talk on the level of the Ministry of Higher Education that there will be no dissertations, probably. Then some universities I think are going to be given complete freedom in that. If there will be MA, so masters or dissertations, and the BA level, so lower level dissertations during the course of studies, because many of these are based on ChatGPT or they are just plagiarized. As I told you before, there are special anti-plagiarism tools which every thesis has to go through. So every BA and MA in Poland has to go through this tool, so that any traces of plagiarism can be found, and anyone who's responsible for usage of other resources unquoted may be punished in a way that is advised and run at a given university. But I guess it's going to be more and more complicated. And as I said, we are going into this direction where BA and MA level graduates will not write a final thesis to avoid this disappointment of lack of authenticity. And they will just take a final oral exam. I don't know, it's a big revolution, because this is a deeply rooted tradition in Polish universities to have a defense of a thesis in public in front of 3 or 4 professors for BA and MA levels, and of course writing it before for 1 semester at least. as this is usually the final semester devoted to that aspect at universities in Poland. But yes, to provide academic safety, we must face this challenge of times, of as we have seen and come through the pandemic, the war. We all manage somehow, but what we need to adjust to this. And I think if we don't adjust to a new situation which are very challenging in academic life, we may fail in a way. Academic safety, it's also accreditation of universities. We have a special committee of accreditation, which is a very strongly rooted body in Warsaw, in Poland. And all faculties are being accredited every 5 years. And this is also the provision that the quality of education is provided. So this is the safety, I would say more safety for the students that the faculty, the department will run. If a university or college is given fail as a mark of the final accreditation procedure, then they are not allowed to run the program from the next academic year. So this is in other words, this is humiliation, but this is a very serious consequence for the university authorities. So I guess, yes, this provides the safety of education at all levels. Thinking about the areas where I mean safety of education, I think also the grant system provides a lot of safety. There are grants, scientific grants provided by specific universities in Poland. So those rich, usually state universities, provide their own grants, which is a system of awards for scholars to deal with special research. But as you know, as we've been members of Poland has been member of the European Union for 20 years. We will be celebrating it this Wednesday. So May the 1st was our accession day. We have had used European funds immensely. So that is not only Erasmus, that it's not only other popular European programs, but there are many, many resources used for the globalization procedure, for the research, for publications, for mobilities. Many of these programs also include options for the Ukrainian community, and I sometimes, as we've been cooperating for 6 years, I sometimes email those competitions or open grant programs or ventures which you can join. And some of these, I know that they are published, and I just really strongly encourage you to take part. If you don't try, you will never know. But there is nothing really to lose. But it's better to try and to take part in those usually they are fully granted programs. So there is a lot of money in those European funds. I don't really know the numbers because I think they are very difficult to be counted. How many billions of euros have been used so far? Because I guess it's not millions, I guess it's billions of euros used in this sector to provide the safety, to provide the quality. And now this may also create some difficult situations, because as universities, especially state universities, have been using those funds vastly, and some people say that the resources are becoming limited. I wouldn't say so much limited, but we have been just used to immense masses of money that are invested at university levels. So I guess we have to come to terms with the situation when the universities have to become more resourceful and find their own resources through other programs. But as you know, there are some other ways opening, some other doors, and there is always a program of research or development which universities can use, and they vastly use it. As I said, they also provide the academic safety. There are many academic obligations which we face at universities, and this is somehow an issue between safety and culture, because I will start talking about culture in a minute. But academic obligations are usually the peer contacts, the contacts with our colleagues where we work on common projects, joint ventures or research ventures. And usually they are based on interpersonal contacts and beliefs and trust. So academic obligations are not only the technical aspects of whether we get a grant or not, or whether our internet connection is strong or weak, because all of these create safety or comfort, maybe I would say in a way. But on interpersonal level, I would say that the academic obligations are like the trust between partners in a perfect marriage. So if you don't trust your husband, your wife, on everyday basis, I would say, how can you trust someone you're working with if there is like a situation where you lose this trust? Because you know that working together on a scientific project is a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of paperwork, and it's very demanding. And sometimes we may get just simply disappointed, but this is education. I always say education is human business, and we cannot forget about this, that we are all humans, we all make mistakes, we are prone to make mistakes, but somehow we are trying to focus on the good aspect. So much on the safety. Talking about culture, culture is another broad topic, and culture for all of us means something different, because culture is this set of rules, traditions that we have been brought up with, but it's also the history of our lives, of our system of values, and the system of work. So how we work at a given level in special situations. So academic culture may be treated as a special kind of organizational and professional culture. It shapes the identity of universities, as well as the professional identity of academic staff. The research method is the analysis of literature of the subject, and few studies are available in Poland now, but I'm going to refer to some papers which I have read for you today in order to prepare for the meeting. And there was an attempt to trying to define academic culture. So there is some kind of typology of organizational culture that it tries to identify the features for the academic culture. The meaning of academic culture is the combination of system of values and patterns of a university with the professor's ethos. The core, the main values integrate the ethos of science with the axiology of higher education. So this is the mere definition of academic culture. So academic culture combines those cultural values, the standards, and the norms in organizations characterized by long duration on the horizon. The academic culture is very deeply rooted in universities. It creates strong organizational identity, and this is the source of identification for employees. Significant changes in higher education systems and educational policy also lead to far-reaching changes in organizational cultures of universities. There has been some research in the early 80s of the 20th century conducted by David Dill, and he has found that universities, and he has called universities the ideological organizations that are immersed in strong organizational cultures. So academic culture in principle is very difficult to manage, and it affects the identity, communication, and all organizational spheres of the academia. It shows that there is importance, especially based on the situations of crisis or when there is the situation of a deficit of organizational resources. There is a very strong commitment to culture, which we sometimes do not realize. The commitment to strong culture can protect the organization against destructive conflicts and tensions. It strengthens the integration and enables the university to survive. There are many traditional tools related to the management of university. They are strategic management, financial management, controlling, marketing. And these are all the aspects of commonly used traditional tools related to university culture. In many academic institutions in Western countries, we see they reflect Japanese organizations. So they are well structured, they employ staff for the whole working lives, as this is the case in Poland as well. They use many fundamental mechanisms of collaboration, and there is decision-making with very weak individual sense of professional responsibility. So the overall importance lies on the institution, not on the individual so much. So this is the case in Poland, I would say, very strongly observed. Another characteristic feature are the stable procedures, especially for public big universities. So there is the predominance of stable bureaucracy culture and the organizational structures, which are permanent and inflexible, so they are not changing. And there is the system of assessment and motivation of staff, which is formalized. The system is changing over the years, of course, and in many universities, especially in private universities, as they are closer to corporations now. But they also employ many formalized procedures for measuring the quality, like in the accreditation committee, which I mentioned, or in the system of motivation of employees. So what are the methods to be used, to be employed here? There are the methods of controlling, the strategic planning, and managerial accounting. Sometimes when I see managers in the roles of rectors, they are quite often disrespected by the older colleagues who think that the quality of university lies not in management, but in the ethos of professional scientific development. But universities now are forced to make money, are forced to be profitable, even the public ones and the famous ones. And the organizational culture of universities is changing, as we see. This is a very complex situation. This is some universities are compared to business organizations. They are organizational identities or entities. They are very professional, and and they also focus on scientific research. But they have at the back of their minds, the managers have this issue of money making and profit making. There is another area of organizational identity, and it belongs to academic community. So when we have this sense of belonging to community, we have a deeply rooted ethos of values of science and university teaching, as we are part of something big, and we are part of a group which is looked upon. So the academic degrees, the ceremonies, the system of assessment, and many other prestigious practices build a lot of self-esteem and maybe not routine, but the professional aspect on the professor's job. So this identity of belonging to this family of scholars gives another cultural aspect of identification with this group. The majority of scientific disciplines is created within the scientific community, and it measures the prestige, it measures the recognition, and it develops standards of membership and also exclusion from the area of research and teaching. So if you fail, you may be easily excluded. You may fail because of plagiarism, because of lack of being promoted. There is a big tension of being promoted to higher levels of academic degrees. Of course, it depends who you really are and what you do, but this is quite a lot of pressure on prestige, and this is also part of academic culture. We had some kind of decline of this ethos of scholars and university jobs, especially related to traditional old universities, as they do not follow the standards of modern management, and there is this perspective of them to be lagging behind. But this is I think quite another story. So there are many aspects which differentiate universities, the conservative ones from the state ones. However, as we focus on internal organizations of cultures of universities, it is worth to analyze the dimensions of values which are important to be called aspects of culture. So the specific features of description of culture are characterized by being very differentiated. The following description of the nature of culture in universities may be based on contrast, like pragmatic culture opposes the bureaucratic culture. These are the aspects which I mentioned. Conservative culture faces and opposes innovative culture. Hierarchical culture faces and opposes egalitarian culture. Weak culture opposes strong culture. And these are the dimensions and specific features which we may, I would say, predominantly find in public universities. I mean, the first aspect, and the second aspect in many ways may be found in private universities or in universities which are run, for example, by NGO organizations. So there are many other cultural typologies which we may use, and there are quite a lot of differences of dimensions of values. As we know, there is a lot of bureaucracy in education, and this is also an element of culture of university life. So it's a bureaucratization. And I guess the bureaucratization, the so-called red tape, can be found both in public and private universities. And why? Why is it so? I guess it enables us to control others. It also gives us many simple resources of control. And it's also the way that we control not only the system, but we control the students, we control scholars and administrative staff. So the bureaucracy is one aspect. Sometimes I hate it because I do have a lot of bureaucracy in my job. I have bureaucracy in international programs, and that is growing, and it's growing every year. I don't know why. I think they want to employ more people in offices, and those people just work for and produce more papers for us to be completed. But we are like robots in this. We are like in the treadmill that we just work on papers and papers and more papers. And I guess you know this feeling like that the papers are never ending, because we, even if we organize an exam, we have papers before, we have papers after that. I do opt for many solutions here, like using special IT tools, which may help reduce the paperwork, not only because of the environment, but this is one aspect, but also for the speed and communication. So if we use more IT tools and special programs related to the reduction of bureaucracy, we may speed up our work and we may have better communication, because the results will be transferred from one desk to another, from one room to another, even without the need to be at university. I sometimes work online for my university when I travel, so I just take my laptop, or even sometimes my phone is enough. And I can work on many resources just using some kind of IT tools which help make communication better. So, but as I said, bureaucracy is also an element of academic culture. This gives us the feeling of safety, I would say, that we are feeling at home with this, because we have done a lot of paperwork and we have and we can be proud of this. But this is quite I would also say quite another story to talk about bureaucracy in academic institutions. Many authors believe that culture shapes innovation. It may shape the level of innovation. It may shape the entrepreneurship and flexibility and creativity. And we can talk about innovative, entrepreneurial, flexible, and creative cultures, and on the other hand, on their opposites. So entrepreneurial organization culture, which is largely defined as pragmatic culture, has been studied especially recently. And it includes the creativity and willingness to take on challenges to the cultural model. So it really depends if this creativity speeds up the models of development. So the distinguishing features of entrepreneurial cultures are the empowerment and more focus on people and creating value through innovation and change. This has been researched by McGuire in 2003, so 21 years ago. So innovative culture is by definition focused on the change, and it connects with willingness to take action under the shortage of information. We know that we have sometimes work under high pressure. So organizations having higher tolerance or uncertainty, they adapt easier to changes in the environment, and they see the change as the value. Sometimes it's very difficult to accept it, but the change is the source of development. On the other hand, conservative culture leads to the reduction of uncertainty and risk, just like with bureaucracy. Tradition is seen as stability, something that we know, the situation, the status quo, the situation that we are familiar with, and the tradition is interpreted as certainty and stability. So this is for you to judge if this is true or not, but I would say conservative orientation can promote the stability of public organizations in some situations. But in conditions of unexpected situations like the pandemic, like war, the environment and the situation when we only rely on something stable is very dangerous. Because as we know, there is nothing eternal and nothing so stable nowadays. And we need to adjust quickly to the risks and the situations outside. So those conservative organizations tend to isolate themselves from information. They usually resist the change. We should not ignore it that the risks arising from the adaptation of pragmatic or innovative cultures are stemming from business to the needs of higher education. And they are all very close to social responsibility. I am on the stand that the education now is a commodity market, that this is, that knowledge is marketable, that the students may be treated as customers. And this limits the autonomy of many academics, and the consequence may be the transition from the old-fashioned model to more innovative and more pragmatic one. So the student as a customer, I sometimes feel that it's impossible to be accepted in some universities. What kind of structure should organizations have in order to enjoy a better university culture? I would say a flat structure of university and the limited number of levels of management is better. There are many differences in power at universities. There are deans, rectors, vice rectors, directors, managers, administrative staff like bursars. And I think the more levels we get, the more complicated it becomes. When we are able to flatten the structure, we may lead this to accentuate the similarities between the employees. So they may easier focus on flexibility. The hierarchy of public institutions also is reflected in the range of salaries. The salaries at universities are usually cannot be compared. I mean, Poland cannot be compared with salaries in business institutions, in private companies, because people really employed in private companies earn more than at university and in public universities. So there are elements of weak and strong culture. Of course, it's very personal for you to decide, to judge if you are opting on the options of which I mentioned regarding the public sector or more private sector, because we all would like to have clear answers, and there are no clear answers. We tend to find the uniformity and some universal consensus for employees, for values, for norms, which are very difficult nowadays in the present world to be found. We would like more involvement on the side of employees and higher efficiency. But this is some kind of inconsistency. If we want to have more proficiency, efficiency, and involvement, then we should give the employees more freedom in the aspect of culture at work. There is a prominent position of strong organizational culture, and many of the opinions say that it's not. So, as I say, it's always something which is opposing. There are conflicting interests. Polish academic culture is seen to be in social vacuum, in emptiness. So this is like, it started in the 70s of the last century, and this atmosphere of the social vacuum continues, I think, even now, that this is the place of creating a very conservative culture in Polish universities, and it's very conservative environment, which also very often criticizes changes. It contests and boycotts the changes. But we are facing the neoliberal changes now in the present world. So we need to focus on the economization of activities and formalization of bureaucracy. In the last 10 years, there has been a lot of pressure in the introduction of the so-called Bologna process. So the system of studies, separating the bachelor program from the master program, so 3+2 as the main model of education. Only 6 years in Poland for physiotherapy, medical studies, I think, and law. All other programs are divided into 3+2 Bologna model. We have for the last 10 years, we have had the national qualifications framework, something new and something uniform. So it formalizes the process of quality assurance. The Poland system, which I already mentioned, the program which includes all students, all scholars, and it's impossible to be to study and not to be there. Like it's like you have to be included in the system if you are part of university life. So this is a lot of deeper transformation going on, especially with the European funds. This is the last 20 years, but the Bologna process is something like the last 10, especially last 10 years. And this is, of course, quite a lot of bureaucracy, but also it's a lot of progress because it gives uniform vision on academic culture as in the whole European Union. So it really helps many people to benefit from the funds, from the programs, and many joint ventures. So the neoliberal changes, whether we like them or not, whether we oppose them, they are there, like the ChatGPT, it is here, we have to face it. We need to decide on what kind of actions we take to employ to make it smoother in action. Also, the interpersonal contacts, like I mentioned, the academic obligations at the beginning, talking about the safety. There are many situations when we place relation first, like the before organization. So our colleagues get better chances of employment, or our family members may be offered better position in our institution. We are very faithful to our work. We have the attitude that we do not show much initiative. We have the working environment, which is related to the low degree of mobility, and it's very autocratic management style. We still have this. in Poland. So as I said, it started in the 70s and it's still growing, and it's a model close to, I would say, even religion, that it's like it refers to the religious culture. So this academic culture is a reflection of very conservative rules and very conservative inbreeding. So eliminating those issues like nepotism, eliminating the lack of mobility, or the situations when we have this exchange of services, when we hire relatives. It's very, very difficult process. We may try to take some steps and use very different resources to help to stop the things which also bother us in everyday life. But on the other hand, there are many aspects of traditional conservative university life which people enjoy, like the ceremonies, like the rituals, the opening ceremonies, the attitudes of students towards higher ranked professors and scholars. So this is deeply rooted in conservative culture and tradition. So summing up the features of academic culture, it has many highlights, like the hierarchy of character, like formalization of relationships within the university units, growing bureaucratization of activities, ceremonialism and ritualism, senioral structures of power and authority in universities, and the focus on internal promotion. We are all facing this, and I guess you, my colleagues in Ukraine, are also facing similar situations in academic life and academic culture. But as we all know, it is changing, and it's good to know that we are part of this change, and maybe some of us will be the triggers, the starting points, or whistleblowers, as we may say, of this change, that some situations may change, that universities will take on different roles, that some of them, in many situations, will be seen as business units, and we will go from the conservative to more open business-oriented units. Thank you very much for today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Щиро дякую всім учасникам, які взяли участь у заході. І хочемо зазначити, що Центр культурно-педагогічного співробітництва вчасно виконує вимоги, і всі, відповідно до тих термінів, які були вказані в інформаційних листах, отримують сертифікати про стажування. Ще раз чимось дякуємо. До побачення.
Дякуємо, до побачення.
Дякую, до побачення.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.